block off roads, and just make sure that people stay safe. And we are always here. We're on campus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And sometimes in Colorado, it does look like that picture. Not very often, but sometimes we do get some really intense snowstorms. I remember it was probably about 10 years ago at this point. We had 3 feet of snow on the ground. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, but it really kept people inside a lot. But you will see us around. This is actually, I was working with another officer at, I believe this is 5 a.m. and we were about done with our evening shift. And the beauty of what is Colorado, if you're coming here, you hopefully will see a lot of really cool things. I would highly suggest, don't forget to look up. I know some of our students, even myself included, it's kind of hard once you get wrapped up in all the things that you got going on, but sometimes just look up and look at the mountains, take a quick deep breath. It's a beautiful place to live and to go to school. Now, a little bit more about us. Like I said, we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are specific for CSU. We have about 35 officers. Currently, we are hopefully hiring some more because we are short-staffed, but that's all right. We have an additional about 30 civilian personnel. Our officers are certified through the state of Colorado. But the thing is that how that works is that there are different police agencies across all of Colorado, across all of the United States. And our officers are considered peace officers. That's what it comes down to, peace officers. I like to use that more than police officers. But we are also commissioned with the city of Fort Collins, meaning that we can also do things throughout Fort Collins. And we have a mutual aid agreement with the Larimer County Sheriff's Office, so we can go out there and help out when we can. Majority of our time is absolutely spent on campus just because we stay busy. That said, let's see here. All right. These are some of those other police agencies. Now, there's a lot of differences between police departments. There's a lot of differences between what you might see. You see my kind of car. We have Tahoes and we have Interceptors, and the CSU one is the bottom left picture there. We kind of take a different approach. And our big thing is education. Our big thing is making sure that people stay safe and making sure that we can help out as much as possible. Many agencies take a different approach, whether that's because of where they exist or what is going on in their realm. But I will tell you, our training, our specifics are, we have a much more diverse population at CSU than Fort Collins does, than the majority of Colorado does. And I enjoy that because that brings a lot of different ideas, a lot of different thoughts, and a lot of different stuff from all around the world. Like I said before, I enjoy the questions that y'all give. And a couple other pictures there that I'll show you. The top left that's Colorado State Patrol. They are responsible for technically the whole state, but they spend the majority of their time on our highways. And the thing that we talk about from a CSU PD perspective is that State Patrol, they really like to write tickets. They really like to do traffic stops. I hate traffic stops. I'll just give you that. I'm not a fan. I do them sometimes, but the reason I do them is safety hazards. I don't do traffic just to do traffic. I will tell you that driving around in my car and talking to people is much more what I prefer to do. Then you have the next one over to the right. That is the Fort Collins Police Services. They were the city that is around CSU. We are sworn in, like I said before, as Fort Collins police officers as well, but our specific, what we work with is CSU. Fort Collins, they have a much bigger police department. They have about 200 officers, and they take care of all of what is Fort Collins, but they don't do anything on CSU campus unless we absolutely need help. That is a big thing, and thankfully that doesn't happen too often, but Fort Collins has a different approach to policing than we do, and we work with them, but I don't control anything that they do. And then there's the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. They work throughout all of what is Larimer County. Those officers, those deputies, they have a much larger area. They go up into the mountains. The Larimer County is, I want to say it's the 3rd largest county in Colorado, and it covers a lot of distance. So those deputies spend a lot of time in a lot of different, very rural, very non-densely populated areas, but they have a large area to cover. and they have a different approach as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute. Community policing is what we emphasize at CSU. Something that I have been told on many occasions is that we talk a lot. Now, what that means is that CSU police officers, and this isn't just me, I know I've probably been babbling on for way too long and y'all are probably pretty bored of my voice already, so I'll try to get through this. But the reason we talk a lot is because I would prefer to talk to somebody and help them get through the situation, whatever that situation is, as opposed to just dealing with it in a way that many of our local agencies, they sometimes just write tickets really too quickly. Sometimes they will arrest people in a situation that they're allowed to because of state law, but as opposed to fixing the situation. Our officers have a lot of connections, a lot of ability to work with different entities on campus and problem solve things better, more for the long term, because like I said, I don't like traffic stops. I really don't like writing tickets because I find that sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So community policing is a philosophy that emphasizes a problem-solving partnership between the police and the CSU community. And this is working towards a healthy and crime-free environment. That is making sure that as a community, as a group, as an entity, and you all are a part of that CSU community, you all are a part of what it is to be CSU Rams. You're going to bring your own spice to it. You're going to bring your own emphasis to it. You're going to bring your own flavor, however you want to look at it, whatever you want to do. But you will see on CSU campus many, many times, it's a great place to live and learn. And we want to continue to provide that. We want to continue to do that. Sometimes, though, there are some conflicts. Sometimes we find some things that are going on. So that is when the police department sometimes gets involved, and we try to make it to where the long-term solution is there so that we can help everybody that's involved, everybody that's participating in whatever that challenge is, to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Because that's my goal, is to keep people safe and to keep people feeling safe. So traffic safety, as I've already stated, is a part of what we do. I always love this picture. This is quite, what is that, a Lamborghini, I believe. Our officer pulled them over. We'll see a lot of people that'll come into Fort Collins that'll have some really fast cars. And big thing that we see is no street racing. Okay, you are not allowed to street race. You're not allowed to race down just the normal highways, the normal streets. There are some racing tracks that are kind of down close to Denver if you would like to do that. But on the streets, on the roads of Colorado, you're not allowed to street race. And it can turn into the vehicle being taken away. And what I mean by that is it can be impounded, it can be towed away, and you have to pay some significant fines to get it back. And depending upon the situation, if it's really intense, there can be a trip to jail associated with this, but that's not the best thing in the world sometimes. So just please be safe if you are ever driving a car. As an international student, you can get a Colorado driver's license, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the rules that we see. We've already talked about speed. So as a reminder, I know a lot of you are coming to the United States. Some of you are already here. We have 20 miles per hour that is actually on this one. And I want to ask you this. So if there's a speed limit, okay, that's actually this road right here. This is Mason Street. This is one of the streets that goes through the middle of campus, or kind of the side of campus. It's over by a lot of our Into program, but this particular one is 20 miles per hour. So how fast can you go, do you think? Go ahead and put this answer in the chat. Before being pulled over by a police, how fast can you go? If it says 20 miles per hour, how fast can you go? Feel free to throw that in the chat, please. Plus 5 miles an hour. That's not a bad answer. There's a lot of people that get that. 25 maybe, yeah, same, yeah. Any other thoughts? Feel free to keep them coming in. 20. So the truth is, that's actually the right answer. That is the correct answer. Speed limit means that you can only go 20 miles an hour, right? That's actually what you're supposed to go. That said, I'm going to give you a little bit more about how this works. Remember how I talked about different police agencies do different things? They enforce different ways. If you are driving on I-25, that is our interstate that runs north and south through Colorado, typically that is depending upon where you are, 75 miles per hour. Colorado State Patrol, those are the officers that will patrol those areas, because I don't go out there. I don't patrol the interstate. I work on CSU campus. Those officers, they have a tendency to really like to pull traffic. And by law, if you are going 21 in a 20 mile an hour zone, you can be pulled over by a police officer. Legally, you can. I'm not going to do that. As a CSU police officer, I have many other things that I have to worry about. And 21 in a 20 mile an hour zone is not so crazy. Remember how I said I don't like pulling traffic? That's some of our officers. It's more about what is going on. What is the whole situation? If we're looking at a vehicle that is driving down a street that has a whole bunch of pedestrians walking next to it, walking across the street, we have a lot of bikers because we see a lot of bikers on CSU campus. We have all of that going on, and somebody is going 22, 23, 25 in that area, I might stop and talk with them. I might stop them and talk to them, depending upon how much of a risk it looks like to me that the situation is. If it's not that area, if I don't see a lot going on and somebody's going 25 and a 20, I probably will doesn't seem like a problem to me. It doesn't seem like it's a safety risk. So that is how I look at it. That is how many of our officers look at it. So driving around campus, the big thing is staying safe. Absolutely staying safe. Make sure that you respect all those that are going around you. Make sure that you keep an eye out for those bikers, for those pedestrians, for those other cars. So making sure that you are driving safe. Speed limits, very important to stay, I'll say, as close to them as you can. So please make sure you do that. But thank you for all those answers. Let's see. We're going to move on now to stoplights. So you see, we've got a red one, we've got a yellow one. About flow of traffic. Aaron, I'll bring that up in just a minute. I love that question. We're gonna ask this real quick, and this kind of talks about flow of traffic a little bit. With a red light, yellow light, or green light. So I love to ask this question to all of our international students because different countries have different rules. But I always like to know if there's something different than this. So what does a red light, if you're driving a car in where you're from, what does a red light mean? Does it mean, I guess better yet, does it mean anything other than stop? Is there anybody that's from a country that it doesn't mean stop? Because if so, I'd love to hear about it because I'm always trying to educate myself and learn more about different countries. Give it just a second. And if anybody's typing, feel free. I'm going to touch on Aaron's question here. Flow of traffic. When we're talking about yellow lights or speed limits or green lights is very important. Red light means stop, thank you. Flow of traffic is how fast is everybody going around you? If there are 2 or 3 people that are going 40 miles an hour in a 20 mile an hour zone, I would not suggest going 40 miles an hour with them because they're pulling up the flow of traffic. If somebody's running through a stoplight, a red light, don't go with them. If the flow of traffic is going 25 and a 20 and there's a bunch of vehicles, in most cases, as long as there's no safety risks, you're going to be just fine. As long as there's no safety risks. And safety risks can be, can you control the vehicle at that speed? And usually at 25 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour, you can. At 75 miles per hour, at 80, at 85, whenever it gets up to that on our interstates. And sometimes we'll get some really severe winds in our front range area. That can push the car around a lot, and that turns into more of a safety risk. So going with the flow of traffic, as long as it's safe, make sure that you do that. Nigeria, red light means stop. Perfect. So for anybody in the United States, red light means stop. So we're just going to stay with that. Green light, in similar fashion. I've heard this. Sometimes they can have kind of a blue tinge to them, but mostly green means go, right? Is there anybody that it doesn't mean go? Anyone at all? And I have yet to find any country that it means something else. But for anyone that is colorblind, that is a fantastic question. In Colorado, yes, red is on the top. That said, I can't speak to other states because now that said, it's controlled by the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, or NHTSA, National Highway, NHTSA. They are supposed to keep those standards. That said, I know Colorado laws. So if you move through other states, I would suggest making sure. I'm pretty sure that's the case for across the nation. But yes, red is the top. Green is typically the bottom. Now we might see some 4 lights in there because there's some arrows sometimes as opposed to lights. But how about this? I'm going to throw this question out there before I get into arrows. Anyone give me an idea? What does yellow mean? If you're approaching an intersection, if you're approaching a traffic light, what does yellow mean? What is that? And I always get some interesting answers to this, and I always like to see what they mean, what your thoughts are. So please feel free to type that in the chat. Caution. That's actually, yes, thank you. Be careful. Good. Approach with caution. Yes. Slow down. Potentially. Yes. Like caution. Slow down and stop. Go carefully. I like all your answers. Thank you so much. I sometimes get some people that'll give me the answer, speed up. And that's not the right answer. Vietnam, yellow means slow down, but in public thoughts, it means speed up. Yes, yes. Get ready, reduce the speed, potentially. A big thing is how far away are you from the intersection? How far away are you from entering that area? Speeding up, not usually the best bet, not the thing that we need to do, because that makes it harder for you to stop. That makes it harder for you to understand what's going on around you. Going at the constant speed, you don't necessarily have to slow down here's the if you're going to go through the intersection before it changes at your current speed. So when it comes to our traffic lights in Colorado, how they work is that it's the amount of time that it takes to change is based off of the speed limit. So if it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone, it will actually change faster than if it's a 40, 45, 50-mile-an-hour zone up to that stop line. If the speed limit is higher, there is more time that it will take for those lights to change. The reason is because it's harder for people to react when they're going faster. So they don't want it to change quickly on someone that's going really, really fast. So if it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone, you're going to see the light change more quickly. That said, if it changes to yellow and then it's going to change to red next, that means more than likely, if you are about to enter the intersection, if you are real close, if you see that that car that's on the right here, that's kind of they're about to enter into that intersection, they're about to cross over those train tracks. That one actually is already entered into the intersection. So because it kind of starts, if you see where that light is, that's just behind them. Actually, I might. Do you see my? Do y'all see my pointer? My no, you probably don't because of how I'm sharing. That said, the Laurel Street light that's in the back there, that's behind that silver car, where that is, oh, you can see the cursor. Awesome. That's great. So you can see here, hopefully you see that, that light that is pretty much where that intersection starts. That is where a lot of our intersections, you'll see back here, there's a line, that solid line, that is where our intersection starts. From there, if you go past that, once you get into that, once you get into this area, you are in the intersection. So as long as you get into here before it changes to yellow, then you are allowed to go, as long as it's safe. Remember that whole safe thing. So if there's something else going on and you can't get all the way through the intersection, if it's going to stop you, you actually are completely correct. I will cover that in just a minute. But as long as you enter the intersection and it's still yellow, you can continue through as long as it's safe. If you're way back here and it's going to change before you get there, yeah, it's time to slow down. That is not time to speed up, not time to try to get through it. Because if it changes red before you get there, you can be stopped by a police officer. So I've covered this a lot, but I'm going to answer this question or this side note. You are completely correct. I do recall in Texas that some of the lights are horizontal. And I'm sorry to say, I wish I knew more about that, but in Texas, it's a little bit different. And there are some states that do a little bit different. So if you have colorblindness, if that's something that you want to, you're not too comfortable with, I'd highly recommend whatever state you are, look this up, make sure that it works. This is what I'm speaking to in Colorado. All right, we're gonna move on. Jaywalking, ooh, that's great. I will talk about that in just a moment. Actually, it's when we talk about it on this slide. So stop signs, do not enters, one ways, red lights, one ways, all that. So all of what I've talked about so far in the state of Colorado, not only does it apply to cars, but it also applies to bikes. So technically a speed limit does apply to a bike. If you are going 25, if you're going 30 miles an hour on a bike, honestly, I mean, if it's a safety risk, we might have a conversation because technically I can pull you over if you're in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, but I'll probably give you a high five and we'll try to figure out how to get you into the Olympics because my goodness. Yes, that is, you're doing well. I can't ride that fast. Yes, I do have my 20-mile-an-hour bike, but that's an e-bike and I can't do that by myself. So with that, if you are going over the speed limit, technically it's more about being safe. You are supposed to go in the bike lane or you are allowed to go on the street as long as it's not marked. So there are on College Avenue that runs north and south in Fort Collins. It's also known as Highway 287. Though bikes are not allowed on that street, but throughout this, all of CSU, all of the streets, so College runs on the side of CSU, but it's also where the most amount of cars drive. That's why they don't let bikes there. But all of the streets, all of what is on CSU, pretty much you're supposed to ride on the street or in the bike lane on a bike the entire time. You're supposed to stop at stop signs. You're supposed to stop at stop lights. You're not supposed to go the wrong way on a one way or that do not enter sign. You're not supposed to go against it when you are on a bike. On CSU campus also, you are not supposed to be on the sidewalks on bikes because we have a lot of people walking too. If you don't feel comfortable with riding your bike in the street because the area is very congested, you are welcome to push your bike on the sidewalk. That's all right, but you're not allowed to ride it on the sidewalk. So just keep that in mind. Let's see here, jaywalking. That's actually a great question as well. And I'm gonna cover it while we're talking here. Jaywalking, how it works in Colorado is there is a right-of-way law. The right-of-way means that no one is supposed to get in front of another mode of transportation if they have the right-of-way. So we're talking a street, we're talking someone that it's a straightaway, we're talking an area that there is no crosswalk. And you've got the cars that are driving by and they don't have a stop sign, they don't have a stop light. That area, the cars have the right of way. They are the ones that are supposed to be able to. Now, if you want to cross in that area, as long as you do so diagonally, or excuse me, not diagonally, excuse me, perpendicular to the street. So you go directly across the street. You're not going to go at that angle. You're not allowed to go at that angle. But as long as you go directly across the street and you do not hinder a car's ability to drive, so if there's no cars coming and there's no signs that say you're not allowed to cross here, you can cross. So there's no official jaywalking law. That said, it's best to go to an intersection. It's best to go to one of those lights or one of those crosswalks because that's the safest area, because that's where cars are looking for pedestrians and the less chance of getting hit. So make sure that you just do it so safely and you don't stop another car from being able to go. So if you can get across the street, do so safely. And yes, Fort Collins does have some pedestrian specific traffic lights, quite a few of them actually around CSU because of how many pedestrians we have. That is absolutely the case. And as Aaron just stated, it is at our traffic lights as well. So there are pedestrian specific ones And there are vehicle ones that also use for pedestrians as well. That is also true, Aaron. Thank you very much. Sometimes being a pedestrian, if you have the white person that is telling you that you can go, as opposed to that red hand, those are the two things you'll see. And you see a car coming that's going way too fast, please don't step out in front of them. You may have the right of way. You may be the one that's supposed to be able to go, but I don't want you getting injured because that person's not paying attention. So pay very close attention when you're walking, pay very close attention when you're on your bike, pay very close attention when you're driving. Please just pay attention because we've got a lot of people around. And that is actually one of the main things that we respond to is vehicle traffic, technically vehicle versus person, but more actually bike versus bike and bike versus person. How do I know the signal is open to turn left or turn right? That is a great question, and I did not cover that. Thank you for bringing that up. So I'm going to bring it back to this one because this helps me, this intersection. Some intersections for left turns, they will have an arrow, and you will see that. If it is flashing yellow, that means caution. That means you can go through as long as there's no cars coming from the other direction. As long as you're not going to stop somebody, as long as they're not going to hit you, please don't do that. You can go left if you see that flashing yellow. If it's a solid red arrow, that means that you're not allowed to go until that changes. Even if there is a green light, because here you'll see, for instance, I'm on the wrong screen. You'll see here there are sometimes the left arrow, and it'll be a full red circle, sometimes on the top. Sometimes you'll see the left red arrow. They change sometimes, but then you might see that flashing yellow arrow in the middle. And then these ones will be green on the right side there. If you see that, make sure that you pay attention to whichever one it is that you're doing. So if you're about to turn left, pay attention to that arrow one. Don't pay attention to the other ones because those are for people going straight. Turning right, on the other hand, that is different. If you see a sign that is attached, so if they were coming this direction, if they're coming towards this red light, you'll see here there is the ability to turn right because we can do it right on red. You can turn right on red as long as it's safe. There's people that are not coming from the other direction, coming towards you. So if you're going to turn right, you're not going to turn in front of somebody that's going straight. As long as it doesn't say no right on red or no turn on red, you can do it on while the light is red, again, as long as it's safe. So those are the two things. Turning left, you got to make sure that you wait for the light. You cannot turn left at a traffic light when it's red. Turning right, you are allowed to, as long as it's safe to do so and there is no sign in this area that says do not turn right or no right on red. Cool? All right. Moving on to make sure that we get through as much as possible. So looking at this, when you're stopped by the police department, if you have someone that comes up behind you and it's that police car, that I will tell you from personal experience, even when I'm driving around, I'm a police officer. I drive around in a police car whenever I'm working. It can get my heart rate going. It's like, oh no, what's going on? First thing is to pull to the right as quickly, but more importantly, as safely as you can. I've seen a lot of people that will immediately hit on their brakes and they'll try to pull over straight to the right as quickly as possible. Please don't do that because that's a safety risk. If there's a chance for you to go off onto another street that's not as much traffic on it, please feel free to do so. If there is not that chance, you can stop on the street. That's why we have all the big lights on our car. That's why we have all the stuff that makes us visible, is to make sure that it protects us and you whenever we're stopping somebody. If a car comes behind you, a police car or any emergency vehicle with those lights on top come behind you, there's a chance that it's not because they want to talk to you. Sometimes it's not because you did something wrong. Sometimes it's just they're trying to get past you to get to another situation, to help somebody else. So if you see them behind you, that is also the reason why we want you to get off to the right so that we can get by you, so that we can get to wherever it is that we need to go to help whoever. And I will tell you, the only reason I turn on my red and blue lights is specifically I'm going to an emergency that's a really bad emergency. Somebody needs help. or I'm doing a traffic stop, which I will tell you doesn't happen very often. So that said, those are the only two reasons you will ever see my lights on and our officers. We don't do it just for fun. And when I say that, there has been the occasional time when we've had some students that we've talked to. Remember how I was talking about talking to students and having a good time? When it was snowy out during a break, I do recall, I don't know which officer it was. I'm not sure which one it was. They may have been in my car and we may have had the lights going and the sirens going in a parking lot, but there was nobody else around and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know who did that. Nobody else. But just saying. So that said, we're gonna move on. Don't remember that story. Yeah. All right. Stay in the vehicle. Many countries, if you're stopped by a police officer, many countries, the expectation is for you to get out and to meet the officer at the back of your vehicle. Or the other side is sometimes going all the way back to the police officer's vehicle. Not here in the United States. All of the United States, if you are stopped by a police officer, ever stay in your vehicle. Do not get out. Just listen to the instructions when they get up to you, but just stay where you are. Okay. They may ask you to get out at some point, depending upon the circumstances, but stay in the vehicle unless instructed to do otherwise. Please, please, please. Don't try to be messing with things inside your car until you're told to be doing something, just because we don't know what's going on, and that really raises a lot of officers' blood pressure and their heart rates a lot. So just kind of wait for them to give you instructions. Things that we need from you if I'm ever stopping you for a stop, for a traffic infraction, for a traffic violation, I need your driver's license. I need your vehicle registration, which is a piece of paper, but also you'll get that piece of paper with the license plate, and then the proof of insurance for the vehicle. And here in the state of Colorado, those look something like this. You, as I stated, can get a driver's license as an international student. Absolutely you can. You just got to go through it a slightly different way. And well, it's a little bit more paperwork, I think. I've never had to do it as an international student, but I do know it works, and I do know I've seen those driver's license. You don't need a social security number to do it. You can absolutely get a driver's license. If you are going to drive in the United States, I highly recommend getting a driver's license, because so far, I think that I've talked about a few, that there are some little things that might be different. Getting a driver's license helps you to understand, helps you to go through the test, and helps you to get the information so that you can make sure that you make good decisions. As the question that just got asked, having an international driver's license as a student can work. Now, when I say that is that there's a state law in Colorado that says as a student, you are allowed to have a driver's license from elsewhere. It's interesting how it's written. But what I mean by this is that technically, yes, for a short period of time. That short period of time, I don't remember it off the top of my head. The thing that helps you with getting a Colorado driver's license is twofold. First off, it helps you to understand the rules of the road, and it helps you to understand what the expectations are so that hopefully you never get stopped by a police officer. And number two is it's a great form of identification. Carrying around your visa, carrying around your passport, that just leads to the chance of getting it lost. Yes, can you use your passport as an ID? Absolutely. I would highly recommend against it, because losing that passport, getting that stolen it's not a good day. So please, if you get a driver's license, there's also a Colorado ID that you can get as well that works just the same. So if you ever need an ID for anything, it works a lot faster, and it just gets you through things just more quickly. So the same, yes. Can you use your home countries? As a student, technically yes, but I would absolutely, let me just say this. At other states, do other things. I can't speak to Texas. I can't speak to Maine. I can't speak to California. I'm not sure what the rules are there. In Colorado, technically yes, as a student, but I will tell you, it is going to help you out so much more to understand what's going on to get a Colorado driver's license. The registration is required for having the vehicle. It's got to be registered, and you got to have that piece of paper in the car. And you do have to have the proof of insurance. So I will tell you, absolutely crucial that you can drive someone else's car. You are allowed to, as long as they let you. I mean, please don't steal a friend's car, please don't. But if you want to drive someone else's car and they let you, you need to have your driver's license and you need to have their registration and their insurance for the vehicle. So those always have to be with you when you're driving. Make sure that that happens. If it's your car, use all of your stuff. If it's their car, your driver's license, their registration, their insurance. All right, so I've already started talking a little bit about bikes. Everything, you don't have to have a driver's license for a bike. You don't need that. That is not required. But everything else we've talked about for the cars, no, you don't need, well, you need a bike registration with the CSU Police Department. So if you're going to use that, come by, talk with us. It's really easy to do. It's really quick. Get your bike registered with us. You don't need insurance to ride a bike, but you do need to follow all those other rules. So stop signs, red lights, one ways. Well, there you go. Cool. I didn't know that. Thank you for that information. Please look at the chat. That is, that's good to know. That said, bikes, when you're riding a bike around campus, it's the fastest, easiest, typically safest way to get around as long as you follow the rules. So international students do not allow it. That is something that we're gonna have to look into. Maybe we'll have a talk with Aaron about that. That I don't know about. Yes, federal ID. Okay, all right, cool. Aaron's got that. Awesome. So bike safety. Other things you will see is dismount zones. You got to make sure the dismount zones, you get off of your bike and push through the areas. Once you're on the other side, so you will see this particular insignia here for dismount. If it is in the area to where you can read it, that means you've got to dismount. If it's upside down, that means you can get back on. That means you're on the other side of whatever this dismount zone is. So make sure that you get off and push your bike or your skateboard or anything that's a wheeled conveyance that is not there for some type of mobility challenge. So if it's not a wheelchair, we're not talking about that. That is not something that you have to dismount, my goodness. It is things that you, for instance, a hoverboard though, that is not a mobility thing. You are supposed to get off hoverboards and skateboards and bikes. And technically, if you do roller skates or roller blades, technically those as well. All right, moving on, because we got a lot of information to get through. Aaron, remind me, when are we done? Nancy, Aaron, remind me when we're done. I'm gonna keep on moving.
Let's see, 11:30 was the target time.
Got it, okay, fair enough. Then we will keep on rocking and get a chance to ask more questions. I saw a long question from Sebastian. I will touch on that in just a bit. Okay, here's a huge thing, consent. This is probably the thing that we talk with more domestic students about than international students, but I want to make sure that I bring it up for everyone. And that is that consent is crucial, absolutely. That can get you into a lot of trouble if you ever try to push yourself onto somebody. And that can be in many ways, whether it's you're trying to text them and you go after them over and over, and it's just a text message, right? But you keep texting them over and over, even if they've told you to stop, even if they're not responding, you keep going. Please don't do that. Overly calling somebody, hugging them when they don't want you to, kissing them when they don't want you to, initiating in sex when they don't want you to. All of these things are absolutely, the further you go down the list there, the more intense the charges, or honestly, the more intense it'll happen at CSU as well. This is very important to make sure that everybody that's involved in any type of relationship, it is consensual for both people that are involved. It doesn't matter if it's boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, boyfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, doesn't matter. Consent is crucial. And I believe that's actually the cup of tea. Aaron gave me that years ago. Aaron, if you will link that one in the chat, please. That is a fantastic video to talk about consent. That's huge. And if you can't get to it, I can get to it later. but that is a great video. I love that one. Couple things to think about. No means no. This is what we're talking about with consent. If somebody says no, it means no. Whether that's stop talking to me, whether that's no more text messages, whether that's no, I don't want to kiss, whether that's no, I don't want to have sex. It does not matter. No means no. If somebody is intoxicated, if they can't answer the question, if you ask, that means no. Not now, maybe later. I have a boyfriend, girlfriend. If they say anything other than no, or excuse me, other than yes, if they say anything other than yes, it means no. Please keep that in the back of your head, because this can get people into a lot of trouble that I don't want to have happen to you. That video goes into it much better as well. I would highly recommend, and Aaron's going to get that in just a moment. Domestic violence. This is when somebody is involved in a intimate relationship, in a relationship with each other. It can be, like I said before, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend. Anytime that two people are in a relationship, an intimate relationship, domestic violence can be a thing. Now, the reason I bring this up is because very few times am I required to arrest somebody. Very few times does the state say that I actually have to arrest somebody. I can use my discretion to try to help it, to try to make it better. Very few times though. Domestic violence is one time that I have to arrest somebody. If I do not arrest in a situation where domestic violence has happened, I can go to jail. As a police officer, they can arrest me. If I don't do what I'm supposed to in this situation, that's how severe it is. So that means that, what is domestic violence? We see this, other countries have different expectations. Other countries have different requirements, different things that are okay in their country. In the United States, there is no time when a husband and wife can beat each other. That is not allowed. That is, or anybody in a relationship, I say husband and wife, and I shouldn't say that, just that. Any type of relationship, any type that I listed before, any type of intimate relationship, however, whoever those two people are involved, cannot beat each other. Harassment, also, that is when someone yelling at each other, someone doing a lot of text messages when it's not wanted, someone hugging in a situation, sexual harassment, those kind of things, when we're starting to get into sexual things, or if you're pushing yourself onto somebody that doesn't want a sexual relationship, that is very, very bad. Please make sure that you don't do that, because that turns into very bad. That turns into a lot of problems. Criminal mischief. That is if you destroy something of someone else's. If sometimes we see this is a case that happened a couple of years ago. A girlfriend actually it was an ex-girlfriend. She was very angry and destroyed her ex-boyfriend's car by scratching it a lot. It was not a good day. Don't do that, because in that situation, no, she didn't do it directly to him in that situation, but she did it to his stuff, which meant that we actually had to arrest her. As much as I didn't want to, I was required to. Another case that I saw, and as an example, we had a student from California, and I've told this over the years and years and years, but I think it really does help out. But he was a California student. He came to Colorado to come to CSU. And he was known to text women a lot. And he thought he was just, we'll say, the hottest thing ever. That's what he thought. These women thought otherwise. They did not want that. And so he constantly kept texting women. He constantly kept asking them to go out on dates for him. Every time he saw them, I mean, he just was over the top. He just would not stop, even if they told him to stop. And this was for, I think it was about 10 or 12 different women that he was doing this to. And we got a call about it and eventually figured out about all these different women. And when asked why in the world he did this, because eventually we started talking to him, and he said, here's what he told us. And this is not okay, but here's what he told us. He said, if they tell you no, it means you have to try harder. No, if they tell you no, it means no. That's what it means. And unfortunately, all those women had to go through that situation, but he did get arrested based off the circumstances. And we did have to move for that. But if they say no, it means no. Common enforcement issues. These are some things that we do a lot of. We spend a lot of time. Alcohol is probably the most common thing that we deal with.
Oh, no, I was curious.
So alcohol is something we deal with a lot. It is something that is more common, that and marijuana. And we're going to talk more in depth about marijuana in just a minute. But alcohol is something that's underage alcohol more than anything. Big things about alcohol though. Traffic enforcement, bikes and cars, our officers, it's a safety thing on campus. I do a lot of bike enforcement because unfortunately we get a lot of bikes that get hit by cars because the biker did something wrong, or bikes hit people. And so I just don't want that to happen. So I talk to a lot of bikers. And then theft, common thing. We'll go in more into that. Illegal alcohol use, underage, under the age of 21. One cannot consume alcohol in the state of Colorado if you are under the age of 21. On campus, there's some repercussions, loss of good standing. You do have to go through a process when anytime that you're cited for underage consumption of alcohol or possession of alcohol, you can't have a beer. This is a common thing. We go to some of these parties that are going across campus and it's not my beer and they're holding the cup. It's like, well, that doesn't matter because now it's unfortunately your ticket. Don't hold alcohol if you're not 21 years of age or older. It's not, don't have it, don't use it, don't do it. Additionally, CSU puts through, there's a long process if you are cited for this, if you do get a ticket for that, and they go through a lot of things. The big reason is to make sure, is to absolutely make sure that people stay safe. And it brings up another question. Can you drink alcohol in public if you are 21? So that is the other reason that we contact more than anyone, is that you cannot consume anywhere in the state of Colorado in public, alcohol in public. Excuse me, scratch that. In Fort Collins, you cannot have an open container of alcohol. So you can't be walking down the street, even if you are 21, you cannot have an open container, one of those red Solo cups. That's usually what a lot of people see in those party videos. And that's a lot of what we see at parties. And you can't have that while walking down the street. If you're at a party, if you're inside and you are over the age of 21, you can. But if you are in public in the city of Fort Collins, you cannot. You cannot have an open container of alcohol in a vehicle either. You can't have it inside of a car. And technically, you can't have it on a bike when you're riding because bikes are considered vehicles. It's not a good idea to ride a bike while drunk anyways, because that's going to turn out to be a lot of bad days and a lot of injuries. So don't do that. So you're not allowed to do it in the city of Fort Collins, in parks, on the streets, any of those things. You cannot consume it over the age of 21 in any of those areas. So hopefully I covered both of those questions. All right. Now, these are some of the fines you can get. Like I said, possession or consumption and open container. All right. Smoking. This is something else that we see a lot. And when I say smoking, we're talking tobacco products in this circumstance, not marijuana. We'll talk marijuana in just a little bit. Smoking tobacco products, you cannot smoke it anywhere on campus. The state law says it's 20 feet, 6 meters from a doorway of any type of school, restroom, lobbies, hallways. There's a whole long list. Here at CSU, all of our buildings are considered school. So you can't do it within any of that space. So you can't be in the front doorway. You can't be next to a window. You have to be at least 20 feet or 6 meters away. But also on CSU campus, you're not allowed to smoke either. So any CSU campuses. So keep that in mind. If it ever says no smoking, just don't smoke. There's usually designated smoking areas. Now, marijuana, here's a big thing. We're going to talk real quick about this. First off, you might see that marijuana has been legalized in the state of Colorado for people that are over 21. And that's most of the time the case. That said, as an international student, you are required to follow national law. Excuse me. So this, the entire United States, meaning marijuana is technically still illegal by all of the United States. And so therefore, while if you are over the age of 21 and you're consuming marijuana, as a CSU or as a state of Colorado police officer, technically you're not breaking Colorado law. Technically you're breaking federal law. I usually don't have anything to do with this at this point, but I will tell you there has been some students, and one particular, this is quite a few years ago when it first got legalized. This student was an international student, and they were over 21 and they consumed marijuana, but that wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem that happened was that they posted a lot of information about it on their social media, and they left the country. They went back home for a holiday of some sort. They then attempted to come back to the United States. When they attempted to come back to the United States, they found out that their visa had been revoked. Unfortunately, their visa had been revoked because in the process, some people looked up their social media. We're talking the immigration, and found out that the person had been consuming marijuana and revoked their visa because of that violation of federal law. I highly recommend don't mess with marijuana, because it's just, as an international student, it's going to be more of an issue, even if you are over the age of 21. Just keep that in mind. As a CSU police officer, as a Colorado police officer, I don't do much with this, but for the long term, I will just tell you, it is going to mess with your visa. It is going to mess with things that you don't want it to mess with. So if you hear about, oh, it's legal for people that are over the age of 21, technically that's right, but it's not a good idea for international students. And I can't emphasize that enough. Medical marijuana falls in the same boat. So medical marijuana as well, to my knowledge, unless something's changed, since it is still federally illegal, still falls into that. We'll see what happens over the next several years. That might change. We'll see what the federal government decides with the changing of the president coming up here. And the changing of the Senate potentially, and all of that stuff. So that might change, but as of right now, not allowed. All right, beat that one enough. We're gonna move on. Here's a program that I like to tell you all about. This is what's called Safe Walk. If you're walking around campus, if you have, you're here late at night, if you're here when it's dark and you're walking from, you'll notice that picture in the back there, that's actually the cube, which is attached to our library. It's a great place to study. It's open nearly all the time. I believe it's actually open to students all the time, because you just need to use your ID to get into it. It's a great place to study. Great place if you're trying to get ready for a test and you need to get away. Great place to do that. That said, right now, if I remember correctly, unfortunately, they're not open, but hopefully soon we'll get some things open back up due to COVID stuff, but we will see. That said, if you are walking around campus and for some reason something feels off, you don't feel comfortable, and you want somebody to walk with you, you can call us at the police department. We will walk you 365 days a year, anytime it's dark, from on campus to off campus, close to, it's within 3 blocks, or from off campus to on campus. If you park and you want somebody to walk you onto campus, we can do that. If you want to go from one of our, like I said, the library, when it does open back up, to one of the residence halls, we absolutely can do that. It's absolutely free. It's for you as a student. If you would like to use it, please do so. It's a great resource. And it's usually done by our student officers. Sometimes it's done by our full duty officers, depending upon if the students are busy, or if they've gone home for the night, because they typically work, they don't work all night like we do. So that said, that number 491-1155 with that 970 area code. So 970-491-1155 is there for you. Please feel free to use it. That goes to my dispatch center, and they can get you a walk anytime it's dark, 365 days a year. All right. 911. So sometimes different countries, I've heard 111, I've heard 999, I've heard many different numbers that could be an emergency number. I've also heard from different countries that if you need medical, let's say somebody's experiencing a medical emergency, that is a different phone number. If it's a fire emergency, that's a different phone number. Here in the United States, it is always 911. That is the number for any emergency. Always goes to the case. I will answer that question about dangerous in just a moment. Thank you for that. I will just want to acknowledge this there. Give me a minute. I've got 2 questions that I'm gonna have to answer. I can tell. I'm gonna keep giving myself that that note. But 911, medical emergencies, fire emergencies, police emergencies, anytime that you in the back of your head think, oh my goodness, something bad is going on and I need help and I don't even know what that help is. If you ever think that, call 911. That's what it's there for. On CSU campus, our officers respond to all 911 emergencies. If a police officer is there, it doesn't mean someone's in trouble. That's not what it means. It means we are there to help. So please keep that in mind. So if you see officers, if you see firefighters, if you see EMTs or paramedics, those that come in the ambulance, they will be there to help people. A couple of things about this. Medical emergencies are anytime somebody is experiencing something medical related. We see on campus a lot of seizures. We also see a lot of alcohol overdoses. That's probably the most common that we see on campus, is that people have consumed too much alcohol. If you partake in alcohol, please do so safely. And there's more about that on some of the resources that you're going to be talking about later. Sports injuries, sometimes we'll see pedestrian and bike accidents. We get those actually a lot. Bike versus bike, or bike versus pedestrian, bike versus walker. Those are a lot of the ones that we see. Now, I will tell you about this picture down here. I love this picture because I actually took this picture. This is another one of our officers. That is Corporal Ashley Rose. You might notice a similarity. You see my name, Rose. That actually is my wife, and she works here as well. That situation, that individual, she saw him fall over. That was one of our concerts. Okay, there was an outdoor concert that we had. This is back in, I want to say 2016, but I'm not sure. Might have been 2015. And that individual just straight up, he fell over. He was so drunk, he just could not stand up anymore. So he fell over. She went over, started talking to him. Those are the two EMTs that are working to help him out. The reason I love this picture is because I took this picture, and not 2 seconds after I took this picture, I turned around and there was a young lady that also did the exact same thing. She just fell on her face about 50 feet behind me. Okay. And I was like, oh, I think I should go figure out what's going on. So I went over to help her, and we helped her. And then as I started to talk with this young lady, another individual, not 50 feet from her, fell over again. And so we sent another officer and another group of EMTs over, all within about a minute of each other. We had 3 medicals going on at this one concert just because of people being too drunk. So that said, it was a very busy night, and we had a lot going on. But if you do consume alcohol, if you are allowed to, please do so safely. Other things, police emergencies. This is domestic violence. You've got 2 people that are fighting in any way, shape, or form. A disturbance, an assault. Assault is one person hurting someone else. Let me answer that one in just a moment. I'll get through this. Thank you, Aaron. Burglary, trespass. Someone entering into where you live when they're not allowed to. That's burglary and trespass. Somebody's threatening to use a weapon, somebody's threatening a bomb, somebody's threatening suicide. They're talking about killing themselves or killing other people. All of those are times to call us. We as CSU police officers have a lot of training with all of these things. One of the things that I have used more than anything else, and remember how I said I like to talk to people more than anything else? I spend more time talking than I spend doing any other things, is what's called crisis intervention training, or CIT. That is talking with people that are in a crisis. It is a certain way of communicating. It is a certain way of making sure that we can help them out the best that we can. And in many cases, people in crisis just need someone to talk to. And whether that's just me, or it's me getting them to someone that can actually get them on a better track, there's a lot of resources that I have access to. And so it usually starts with a police officer talking to people and then getting them to other things that they need. Injury, traffic accidents. But I'm going to go back to that question that just got asked. What if I don't want to call 911 because I'm scared of getting in trouble? That is a fantastic question, and I kind of glossed over that. Thank you, Aaron. In the state of Colorado, we have a law that, let's say I use alcohol as an example, but this applies for any type of drug. Now, if you consume too much, and let's say you have a friend that has consumed more than you, they've drank way too much alcohol, and they pass out, and you're both not 21 yet, you're both under 21 years old, we have a Colorado law that says that as long as you call 911, that's number one. As long as you stay with your friend, you answer all the questions that my dispatcher, the person that you talk to, truthfully and honestly, and you're not, you don't make their life more difficult. So just be honest, just tell them what's going on. And then you stay there with your friend until the police officers, the firefighters, those EMTs arrive, and you answer all of their questions. Biggest thing is being honest and calling 911. You do those two things, you're not going to get a ticket, your friend's not going to get a ticket. There's a state law that says that we are here to protect you, we are here to save you, we are here to help you. So when that happens, when you need help, call us. If it's at a medical emergency, they need help, call us. You will not get a ticket, they're not going to get a ticket. So please keep that in mind. I love that question. Does 911 come with a service charge? The only time that you will get charged is the ambulance ride, as was just stated. And it's, as a CSU student, there's insurance associated with being a CSU student. I know that at some point you are all going to talk to the Health and Medical Center and get a chance to get information on that. If you need an ambulance ride, don't worry about the expenses. At that point, it's because you need help. So there is no charge associated with calling 911. There's only a charge if you do have to go into an ambulance and go from there. That's else. So, what else comes with charges from a 911 call? I'm not sure I understand that question. Is there any chance that you can try that one again? See if there's another way that you can phrase that. I'm not sure if anybody else understands what they're trying to say. I don't get that question. So please help me out. I'm going to keep moving though. We're not going to miss these questions. I've got at least 3 now that I've got to make sure I answer before the end. But I want to get through all this information because we're running short on time and I want to give more time for questions. All right, so we have these on campus as well. They're emergency call boxes. They're blue light boxes because guess what? You can see up there on the top, they have these blue lights. There's a blue light associated with this one as well. It's just a little bit further up. You'll notice here, there's also that blue light on the wall. These are boxes that immediately connect with my dispatch center. So if you're experiencing an emergency, this is like calling 911. If you need help, this is a great resource. If you don't know where you are and you're using a cell phone and you see one of these, I'd say use one of these because this helps me to know where you are. I can figure out where a cell phone is, sort of, in an emergency. Sometimes those, the cell phones, it's based off of tracking and those aren't very great. So that said, if you don't know exactly where you are, if you don't know what building you're in, don't know what building you're next to, and you see an emergency call box and you need help, use these instead. They can also be used for our Safe Walk program, and they can be used as well if you're very, very lost and you don't know where you are and you don't need to know where you're going. It can be used for that too, as long as you stay at the box. It's not one of those push the button and run away kind of things. That's not what they're for. That's because my dispatchers get a little agitated. And I will tell you, we actually do have cameras that point at these. So just keep that in mind. I might come talk with you later if you decide to keep pushing buttons. So just keep that in the back of your head. All right. We're going to keep moving because we are almost done with this and I want to make sure that we cover all these questions. Other things police can help with. Cold calls. Let's say something gets stolen. Let's say that it didn't happen right now. Let's say it happened yesterday. Let's say it happened a little while ago. The sooner you call us, the sooner we can help. So that said, please feel free to make sure that you call us as soon as possible. Theft is by far the most common other criminal. We deal a lot with, like I said, those alcohol, those marijuana things, but more specifically, it is a lot of theft. Please don't leave your stuff out. Please don't leave your stuff somewhere if you're not going to take it with you. If you got to go to the bathroom for a minute, I know it's a little bit of a inconvenience. If you're in the library, you get a chance to get in there. Please pick your stuff up, go to the restroom, then come back and reset it out. We see a lot of things get stolen because things get left out. Please either lock your stuff up. If you're in one of our residence halls, if you're in one of our international communities, if you're in one of our university, our apartment communities, please lock your door when you're not there. And also keep your stuff with you or keep it locked up. this applies for bikes. We see more bikes stolen every single year than anything else. And that's what this next slide's about. Yes, I will cover Sebastian's question. I just wanted to get through a few more things because I saw that it was really long. I think I can get it, but I know I'll get it. We'll make sure we get it answered. Theft prevention is going to be, like I said, the big thing, locking your bike up. You'll notice I've got my bike here, my bike picture. Look at that front U-lock, okay? If you're only gonna use one lock, and we highly recommend using a U-lock, lock up that front one. Lock that front tire, okay? Through the front tire, through the frame of the bike, so inside here, and then around that bike rack. Please do all three of those. We see a lot of bikes that get stolen because many people will just lock it around that front tire. And actually, in most cases, bikes, the front tire is very easy to pull off. And then they just take off with the most expensive part of the bike, which is that frame, and just leave the tire there. So make sure that all three of those get locked up together as well. If you're going to use a skateboard, we do have our skateboard racks. Make sure that those get locked up. You'll see here that through those rings, there's a padlock that puts those rings together. That's a great way to lock those up. You're not allowed to bring those into classrooms. The professors don't like it. And there was a rule that got put forth a little while ago that said that the skateboards cannot be put in. Additionally, we see a lot of skateboards. You can see back here, there's a skateboard that is unlocked. I took this picture one day. I went inside. I had to find the person that owned this, and that was a little challenging because we see a lot of skateboards disappear because of that right there, because they just push it in and they don't lock it. So please lock your stuff up. Do not lock it to trees, benches, access ramps, railings, buildings, signs, bike racks, or skateboard racks. All right. Scams. This is something that happens. Unfortunately, our international students get targeted a lot with scams. That said, one thing that, just as a rule of thumb, if this doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Scams common for our international students can come through emails, can come, well, actually, this is all of our students, but sometimes you'll get a phone call directly and they'll try to scare you. Sometimes you'll get a phone call that says, hey, if you do not pay us immediately, if you do not take care of this, we've got a warrant out for your arrest, or we're going to issue a warrant for your arrest, and then we're going to get you deported. And then they'll say all kinds of very, very scary things. And they'll also tell you that if you get off the phone, if you hang up on us, we will do it right now and we're going to get you. I will tell you that's not how fast government works. Additionally, that's not how we work. There are no police agencies that do it that way. There might be a chime where somebody calls you if there's an investigation. Hey, can you come down to the police department to talk to us? We have a physical building on CSU campus. If there's someone that says that they are a police officer and they say that they want to talk to you, you can tell them, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Go ahead, meet me at the police department. If it turns out that they're a real police officer, they can do that. If they are not a real police officer, usually they'll say something along the lines of, I can't do that because I'm in Kansas, or I'm in Maine, or I'm in California. It's like, well, figure out somebody that can talk to me in person because this doesn't feel right. If ever it doesn't feel right, you can hang up on them and you can call us and you can ask us and we can tell you whether or not it's a scam. Many times the real key that you will see is that they'll say, you got to pay me to take care of this warrant. That's not how warrants work. And they will tell you that you've got to pay me with prepaid credit cards, the green dot credit cards we see a lot of, or Amazon gift cards, or iTunes gift cards. No, never, ever, ever do we take care of these kinds of things with gift cards. Happens all the time. We had quite a few of them back in August and September this year that happened. We don't deal with it that way. If you ever feel like this doesn't make sense, if this doesn't, please feel free to hang up on the person. Please feel free to give us a call because you got an email. If it seems too good to be true because they're calling you to tell you, hey, I want to give you a job to do this thing, it's too good to be true. Do not, please, 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 do not let these scams. If you ever have questions, talk with us, or your advisors are great resources as well. They have had a chance to see some of these as well, unfortunately, but we want to make sure that you stay out of this. So please call us. All right, I'm going to go back to those questions. Let's see here. We're going to go back up to Sebastian first, and that is been in the US for 6 years now. and currently have an Arizona driver's license. The driver's license expires in 1/10 of 21. So we've got 4 days. All right. But won't be transferred to CSU until 1/11. Okay. Get my new one on 1/12. Okay, good. DMV, but the Arizona driver's license expired by then. Costa Rica license. Okay. Here's what. So you do have a valid Costa Rica. Awesome. At least we've got that. Going to have a problem getting a Colorado driver's license if my Arizona deal is expired. No, you are not going to have a problem if it is expired. Because it's kind of like you're getting a new one in Colorado anyways. It wouldn't matter if it was expired or if it was current. So just go through and get the new Colorado driver's license as soon as you possibly can. Your Costa Rica one will work for the short period that, but for that transition. And okay, so you've had it in Florida, Nevada, Arizona. Awesome. And yeah, no, you should not have any. There's going to be some paperwork. Obviously, there's always some paperwork. So just be ready for that. But yeah, you should have no issues. And Colorado driver's license, do I only need my new I-20 and 3 proofs of residency? Change plates, yes. 3 proofs of residency, I believe so. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have your expired license as well and your Costa Rica driver's license, and probably your, oh goodness, I'm sorry, words are hard today. Your, not your visa, your passport. There's the
Passport,
word.
yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. All as proof of who you are. So having those and having the vehicle title, having your previous plates from your previous, so the information, the registration from previous, have that as well. That'll get you started and that'll get you going. So just have that information. If you need to, you can give them a call beforehand because the driver's license is taken care of by the Department of Revenue. So give them a call. So the Colorado Department of Revenue, or just Google Colorado driver's license and you'll be able to find it, and the registration, the license plate as well. All right, so now I had another question that I did not cover. Let me find it. No, we got that 911. I feel like, what did I miss? I missed.
Was it the dangerous neighborhoods?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes. Dangerous neighborhoods. Awesome. That is a great question. So around and close to CSU campus, there are very few dangerous neighborhoods. What I mean by that, we've got a lot of, we'll say louder neighborhoods is probably a better way of putting it. Now, for which ones those are, those can change depending upon the new people that move into those areas. And when I mean louder, I mean that they party more. And so if you're a very studious person and you would like to have a quieter neighborhood, there are places that are going to be quieter. Typically, the east side of campus is usually quieter. Usually we have had a couple of years where it's a little bit more loud. Our dangerous neighborhoods are further away from campus in most cases. We have some that are kind of northeast of campus, but those are about 2 to 3 miles away. So if you're going to live in the area, that's much further distance. And then very, very, very far west, probably about 4 or 5 miles away, there are some. But other than that, most of our neighborhoods are very, very safe. So I love that question. Now, there was one more question that I did not understand. Did that one get answered? I believe Manuel. Looks like, yes. Okay, looks like that one got answered. All right. All right, good morning. The question. So I have a Colorado driver's license already, but I'm under 21 now. I will be over 21 next month and my driver's license will expire at next month. However, I will go back to the US at August. Can I renew my driver's license after I go back August? Yes, you can. I believe if you let it expire in Colorado and then you come back, it does take a little bit more work. I would suggest calling and seeing if you can renew it before you leave. There's a chance that you can get the paperwork started so that whenever you get back in August, it could be ready to go. But if all you need to do is renew it in August, if that's what you get a chance to, you can do that. Yes, you absolutely can. But if that's the case, you will have an expired license. So please make sure that you renew it before you drive. All right, I have one more here that I'm seeing besides the driver's license. Doesn't, oh, did that one get answered? Student need to get types of papers to act as IDs. I heard about Social Security number. Oh, okay. Let me make sure that that one gets answered. This one is, besides a driver's license, does an international student need to get any types of papers to act as IDs? No, you do not. Now, there is another ID that is very helpful, and that's your CSU ID, and that is for a lot of CSU things. Many times the CSU ID, there's a little chip in there that can get you through certain doors if you are getting into some type of laboratories or getting into the cube late at night. That's where that comes in handy. Social security number, not required for any of those IDs that we've talked about. Not a thing. You don't need a social security number for those. And ITIN, I am not 100% sure what that means. Erin, do you know what that means?
Yeah, it's most international students do not need an ITIN. It's basically if you do not qualify for a social security number because you don't have a job, but you are still receiving taxable income. So let's say you're getting a full scholarship. Typically, this is only for international student athletes. And if it's covering things like housing and other non-academic expenses, then it would be taxable. But if they don't otherwise have a job, then they would need to apply for an ITIN instead of a social security number.
Okay, perfect. So then, yeah, looks like that question got answered. I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard it as well. Awesome. Well, I've got a little bit more time. I'm going to hang out for as long as anybody needs me. That said, any extra questions, please push them forward. I greatly appreciate you all taking the time. If you have something to go do, you have to be somewhere, please feel free. Let's see here. Nancy or Erin, any other closing thoughts before we really let anybody go that I haven't talked about?
Did you hit medical marijuana?
I did talk about medical marijuana,
Okay.
but I can reiterate if for some reason that did not feel covered enough. That said, medical marijuana as an international student is not, while it is legal in the state of Colorado, it is not federally legal for international students yet.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
It is
Perfect.
not a good idea. As a CSU police officer, as a 21-year-old or older, or as a medical marijuana card holder, I have very little issues with it as long as it's being consumed in a not public place. But as a federal law, it can have a lot of problems with an international visa. So please, I would highly stay away from it. So yes.
Agree.
Any
Thank you,
questions?
Anthony. You covered a lot of information in a very short period of time and answered a lot of questions. And thanks to Erin and John, who are always helpful when it comes to the actual immigration laws. So as a team, we work really hard to make sure that our students understand. You can contact Anthony or Erin or John or I at any time if you have further questions. And the recording will be posted on our website. There's multiple recordings. Monday was the medical with health. Today was the police, and next Tuesday is our immigration session. So those three are the required ones and will be posted on our website, the links to the recordings after. So any other closing comments anybody has?
If I just posted my email address in the chat, if you want to take that down, please feel free to ask me questions later. I don't know all the answers, but I do not know a lot of really smart people that have the answers. So please feel free to ask. Looks like we had another question that just came in.
Yeah.
Pardon me, I joined late. International student with an assistantship position. Am I qualified to get a social security number? Erin?
Erin?
Yes, sorry, I responded in the chat.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yes, any graduate assistants would be eligible for a social security number, and there's actually a request form on the ISSS website where you can go and submit an official request, and then we will write a letter basically saying you're eligible for the social security number based on your employment, and I'm not 100% sure what the Social Security Administration hours are right now. You might have to call and make an appointment. I'm not sure if they've reopened or not, but they are checking their voicemails. So they should, if you leave a voicemail, call you back and set up an appointment where you can go and get a social security number.
Yeah.
It does take about 4 to 8 weeks to get the card in the mail, but you can begin working in the meantime while you're waiting for it.
So that we know that all our international students have lots of complex questions and they change whether you're at home, in transit, or physically here. But we're here to answer those questions and to help you at any time. And we're really thrilled that you've chosen CSU, and we're looking forward to meeting you in person as soon as we can. Anything else?
Thank you, Nancy. I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here. I want to say absolutely good luck right now with our world of how studying may turn into for you and how your classes work out. I want to say good luck. Crucially, I have done online learning myself prior to COVID, and it was very challenging for me. Some people do really well. If you do really well, great. If you have challenges, please reach out to the resources. We have tons of them. You just need to ask for them. Aaron, all of your advisors can be great resources for that, to give you to where to go for that. If you ever see our officers around campus when you are on campus, don't be afraid to say hi. Don't be afraid to come up and talk with us, ask questions. That's what we are here for. I know there's a lot of things going on around the nation about police officers, and I can't control that, but I will tell you this: CSU Police Department has a different set of standards, a different set of things, and we absolutely want to continue to develop relationships around the community. I want to talk to you, because whenever I learn your name, when you learn my name, that makes it a lot easier to communicate. It makes it a lot easier. It makes things more comfortable. So please come up, talk with us, say hi, whether it's just a simple hi on your way by because you're busy on your way to class, or you want to have a conversation. I've had tons of conversations that have lasted for a lot longer than both of us anticipated, but it turned out really well in the end. So please, we look forward to working with you. We look forward to helping you as much as we can, and just encouraging this education and encouraging you to be successful. So thank you all.
Thank you. And with that, we'll end today's session. Please join us for next, what did I say? Next Tuesday morning's immigration session. Thank you.